A dead zone, a cursed village, the notorious one. All names befitting this monster tank which I have now inherited and intend to recuperate. It will be a long journey and I may lose some adventurers along the way, but the peril will all be worth it in the end. When everything is finished, we'll have come out the other end with a stronger tank, a larger tank, something befitting the next generation. Welcome to the Great Shrimp Shoal. There it all is, the giant 120 gallons, solid acrylic, Sea Clear System 2, with a built-in sump that is just simply massive. I got this tank secondhand, obviously. I'm not the one who dirtied it up and left it in this much disrepair. I did make a deal on it though, and it is for the most part in pretty good condition, but there are some drawbacks. There are a few minor issues that I've been able to spot, but nothing that I can't fix after it gets cleaned up a little bit. The simple addition of just this tank to the shoal will increase the capacity and volume of water in the largest tank that I have by a factor of nearly 4. So I'll be going from 30 gallons and jumping straight up to 120 gallons practically overnight. That's 120 gallons, all leveraged for a very specific purpose. This will be my second purpose-built tank for a very particular type of shrimp, and I think that you guys will be surprised by the outcome. That also happens to be 120 gallons, which is 4 times the amount of water that I am used to taking care of. And it should be noted that the maintenance costs and the simple act of keeping the tank running will all be increased over what I am used to already with the mountains and the forest. I have a few plans for the process of rehabilitating this tank, and you guys are going to come along for the ride if you wish. It should be a fun experience because there is a little bit of something for everybody. We'll start from the very beginning, go through the cleaning process, and address any issues that we find along the way. You'll go from the start of it all to the very end when this tank is fully stocked and ready to fire on all cylinders. I am filming it in an environment that suits it perfectly. This tank is in serious disrepair. It is much like the room here that needs to be taken down to the studs and reworked back up to a fresh coat of paint. And that means that since I don't have a good indication of whether or not this was a saltwater tank at any time in the past, that I will have to do a good job of cleaning it and make sure that there is no residue, especially because freshwater shrimp are susceptible to certain chemicals that are often used to treat fish of diseases. What's most interesting about the Sea Clear System 2 tank is that it has a very unique filter system built directly into the back of the tank that is not like other sump and tank combos. After it is filtered by the sump, water is sent to the return pump and it is funneled back through a system of ports that line the bottom of the tank, just above the substrate line. One drawback is that this return manifold is hidden behind the biomedia compartments and stretches the length of the tank through all of the sump components. It's glued to the back of the acrylic and it also represents a space that is hard to clean. To be honest, I don't really see a way of doing it, so we'll have to get down there and see what our options are once the tank is cleaned. Another interesting tidbit about this type of tank is the modular portion that you can set up to add a heater or a protein skimmer just after the primary mechanical filtration. It may have been set up to cater specifically to saltwater tanks because the amount of biomedia space coupled with a protein skimmer and the heavy mechanical filtration would all be strong features desired in those types of saltwater setups. Real quick, let's just cover the filtration pathway. First, we start at the intake, which has a 4-way intake where you can switch between different types of grates and flow rates. Then you have a large mechanical filtration compartment, in which the previous owner of this particular tank seemed to have filled it with tons and tons of fish poop. This is followed by the protein skimmer tower. This portion doesn't follow the up and down flow pattern, so it stands above the waterline, perfect for bubbling off protein, at least in theory. And then we have, under a massive drip tray, the biological filtration, which is 21 by 15 by 4 inches, or 1260 inches cubed, or 5.5 gallons of space entirely set up for the biomedia. After this, we get a return via powerhead pump into the manifold. I'm not going to get the kind of stages I might be able to get out of a canister filter that's been nicely tuned, but the sheer size of the media compartment means that this sump dwarfs all but the best canister filters. That's just another reason that this would make a nice compact saltwater setup, because it's way more filtration that is typically needed for freshwater tanks of this size. Alright, what actually needs to be done to rehabilitate this filter? That's a good question. I think I'm going to remove and replace the type of plastic biomedia that's in here. Although, with the added space, I don't need something very powerful or expensive with tons of surface area. Technically, I can keep something just like this, but I'll want a fresh start. Obviously, I want to ditch the protein skimmer, at least for now, and do another sponge here or along the pathway. I really like bright water ceramic media though, so I'm going to try and find a place for them at the bottom of the media compartment. And then, the return filter has been poorly managed. The tank water should be clear by the time it reaches the pump. In a setup like this, it only has the manifold to hit after this before entering the tank once again. And you can see that there is poop here too, so the mechanical filtration was failing for who knows how long. The simple strainer is also missing from the pump, so I think it would be best to replace it. Even now, I'm second guessing myself because I'm worried that I may just want to fall back onto a canister filter because of two giant reasons. First, the fact that a canister filter is removable and can be maintained on its own without disturbing the tank. This is huge because you can do a lot to troubleshoot and tweak things with a canister filter. Sumps, not so much. Second, this is a 120-gallon monster that is nearly immobile right now with just the 10 or so gallons in it. When it's chock full of water, I will not be able to swing the tank around to get access to the back and assess if it needs any cleaning. It also just makes cleaning twice as hard. So, depending upon where this tank will sit, I may deep clean the sump and seal it up from the tank to keep things nice and simple. Something else that I've noticed about the way this tank was previously set up. All my tanks have something living in them besides the shrimp and the snails. Something inevitably comes along for the ride, whether that's copepods, detritus worms, nematodes, or flatworms. But this tank doesn't seem to have anything living in it, which is slightly worrisome. And I checked along the water line, in the poop in the filter, and under the sand and substrate that was left in the tank. And that means that either ammonia killed everything off or it was completely inhospitable to all types of life. So yeah, I'm going to want a fresh start after a good cleaning. So what do I have planned for this quadruple-sized tank? Well, I've wanted to make a lighter colored setup all this time, something with a light sand substrate and plants that can grow in smaller pockets. I've enjoyed the Rotala rotundifolia, but it grows so quickly that I'm about to reset the forest tank because it's now overgrown. The Christmas moss and Java moss that I have are doing so well that I may try to grow a much larger chunk of the moss in this tank as an alternative to rooted plants, but we'll see. I have had ideas on casting forms of rocks out of mixtures of cement and something a little lighter, but depending on what choices I make in stocking the tank, the forms I cast will change. After a year of keeping Neocaridina, ghost shrimp, snails, and bamboo shrimp, I've come to understand that they each have their own habits. That would mean that they'd each have a slightly different preference as to where to rest, roost, feed, and to forage. As for what I plan to stock the tank with, I've got something in mind that I don't think you guys will see coming. The species I've been thinking about isn't particularly rare, but it's not a first choice among other shrimp keepers and breeders. If I decide to take that route, the tank setup will be dark and broody with a cave-like theme. All that being taken into account though, I still want to get a rare breed of Neocaridina or Sulawesi shrimp eventually, because I am a glutton for punishment and would like to try something with a bit more risk and reward. If I go with the dwarf shrimp again, I'll keep it light and airy instead, because my previous setups have been much darker already. I know that this has been a pretty bland episode visually, but I think the payoff will be well worth the wait. I really hope you guys are as excited about this as I am. I have some fun stuff planned for the next couple of weeks, and if you're interested in how someone rehabs a tank like this, you'll want to keep up with the updates. That being said, I have shrimp planned for the next episode, so it won't be just me cleaning up this poop-caked tank. Thank you guys for showing up, and as always, I hope you have some sweet shrimpy dreams. And this time, I guess, have some dreams about what can be done, what you can make of your future and the things around you. Be crafty, be special, and be safe. I'll see you guys next time.